basically what he'd been doing all his life was he was a dishwasher in Madras, in the middle of the city, and he'd never been in a garden in his life, and I had to tell him how to do stuff. And he did everything wrong. But that was later, so I have to put in these plants. Nobody's there to help me. It's hot in the sun. It's hot in India, guys, in the summer. Duh. And all of this pressure, I'm under all this pressure, and I have to put in these plants. And I go down there. The Orissa boys have abandoned me. The Tamil boys have abandoned me. There's nobody to help me. I'm alone, and I'm going to set 400 tomato plants. Do you know what? You don't want to know the end of the story? I'm going to tell you the end of the story now. Guess what? How many tomatoes do you suppose we ate from those plants? You guessed it! 0! Well, it wasn't my fault. Okay? They didn't grow, but why didn't they grow? I'm going to tell you why they didn't grow. We set them, and it was wonderful how it happened. And Prakriti really sends you the help that you need. She really takes care of you. And she was taking care of me that day. And what was happening was, and now I don't speak Tamil, but in India it's not necessary. It's not necessary to speak the language of the people. They talk with their hands, as in German they say, mit Händen und Füßen. Sign language, body language, eye contact, little bits and pieces. They communicate with you, and these people are so beautiful. The Tamil people are so beautiful. They always try to help you. They always trying to help each other. Indian people are like that. Not like here in the West, where people are like totally individuals and, screw everybody except me. Always look out for number one and just, screw everything. If I don't have time for you, then, shh. That's your destiny. It's your fate. Not in India. People are trying to help. And especially a Western person. I'm a Western person. I'm trying to take care of this farm, and people had great respect for that. And I didn't know that. It was just amazing things that happened. They treated me like a god, really. They did. And at the time, I had no consciousness of that. I didn't know that's what was going on. But basically, they do. They help and they worship you. They really do. So these two young men came. Loganathan, I remember his name, Loganathan, and his brother, it was the other guy. There were two families that lived right next to there. And one of the guys I'm going to forget his father's name. His father had the house right next to, his land was right next to Swamiji's land, and he hates the whole situation. And he basically, I'm not going to say he hates Swamiji, but he's like totally jealous and totally upset, and doesn't want Swamiji to have this land, and he doesn't want him to be there, so he tries all different methods to keep him from being able to use his land, which also will cause problems for me. All kinds of stuff. But Loganathan, the son of this man, helping me in the garden, and then the other gentleman, the young man whose family, ancestral land, is on the other side of Swamiji's plot, and the two of these guys came and helped me set those tomato plants. Spontaneously, without my, asking anything. I just looked up and they were there. And they were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I hold up the plants, and I'm like, "I'm going to put these plants in." They're like, "Well, okay, that's not the way you do it. We'll help you." So they helped me. And we set 400 tomato plants. And then I went back into ashram and, and I was really proud, It's like, wow, I did it. I did it. Okay. I was happy because we got the work done. And, that takes off some of the pressure. Well, nothing doing with that. There's got to be more pressure on your head. The whole point was, it's supposed to fail. Now we're at 20 minutes. Okay, the point is that the project has to fail. Why? Because it has to fail, because there's some karma that has to be cleared in Gargi's system. And this is the way Swamiji was headed. And he and Mother Prakriti working together to beat my head into the ground. So, 400 tomato plants, and Swamiji found out that I was able to set those plants. He set another plan into action. Okay? Because it was not to be. There was work that I had to do to neutralize karma. And my problem was that I was attached to the result. So if we had eaten even one tomato from any of those plants, then I would have been rejoicing in that, and I would have taken the fruit. And that was not what needed to happen. What needed to happen was I needed to do a lot of action and set everything in the sand, basically, to clear some karma. Now, that might not have been my personal karma. It might have been the karma of the earth consciousness, and I think that's probably what was going on. But I took it very personally in that moment because I was totally under the veil. Why? Because if we would not forget who we are, there's no way that we could go and play this thing the way it needs to be played so that the work gets done. Okay, so now the 15th chapter, Udhumulam Madashakam Ashwatam Paravavyam. This is the first verse of the 15th chapter. I forgot to tell you what Swamiji told people. Now, he worked on many different aspects of this whole situation. He gave me this helper, Shekara, this guy from Madras, the dishwasher, who was a kleptomaniac and got into all kinds, and we got into big problems with each other, and got into actually almost physical fights with each other and stuff. Of course, they'll tell more stories about me there than actually had happened, because Swamiji used to just play it up. He used to tell all kinds of stuff, like embroidering on reality, quote unquote. But I let him do that. In another interaction, quote unquote, I'll tell you about that too. Because I'm half conscious of what's going on all the time. Why? Because I know who I am, and I know that I came here for this, and it's really hard for him to keep me under the veil. Why? Because I'm this kind of a soul. High wattage. Okay. So he has to work really hard to keep me down, which is where I have to be to get this work done, which is clearing earth consciousness. So, while I'm working in the garden, setting tomato plants, he's busy in an interaction telling all of his people that because of this verse in the 15th chapter, that Gargi has gone to the garden and she's planted all the tomato plants with the leaves in the ground and the roots sticking up. Okay? And they believe every word of it. Okay? Now, what kind of pressure do you think that puts on somebody's system, and what kind of suffering do you think that person goes through? First of all, the people from Orissa, because they're going to hear about it, because they don't sit in the interactions, because they're not interested, and it's in English beyond that, and they don't really speak English very well, most of them, beyond which they just don't sit in some of these interactions, because the interactions are for the American folks. And a lot of times it's just storytelling. And it's basically so that they just sit here and there and concentrate on him while he works some deal in their system and does something to them energetically, and he tells them stories while he's doing that, and they don't also know that, and he doesn't make up any of this stuff. It just comes through him as a channel, and he doesn't even know what he's talking about most of the time. He's telling stories, and a lot of time was that it was like I used to call it story time, bedtime stories. Okay, but they don't think this. They take everything he says 100% seriously. Especially, some of them have this, actually most of them, took it totally seriously. And when he said that Gargi put the plants in upside down, with the leaves in the bottom, in the ground, and the roots sticking up, and they think that I'm totally nuts. Which in fact I may be, but that's beyond the point. The point is they treat me like that after that, and this causes immense suffering to me. Why did I need to go through the suffering? Why? Because that's what I came here to do, apparently. Okay? That was one of the things that went on. And this is what I'm telling you. This kind of stuff was week in, week out. Okay? To the point where, like I said, the Orissa people, she's a demon. Stay away from me, you're a demon. That's what I heard. Stuff like that. And if you think that doesn't hurt, you try it. Okay? That was really intense. So Brian, sweetheart, you didn't miss much. I'm not going to tell what Brian went through. You can tell your own story at some point. It was so sweet. I remember the time when you were so excited to be there, and you were so happy, and then Swamiji twisted your head around, and you were out of there, and it was like, I'm never coming back. I just remember that, I'm never coming back. And it's like, well, okay. I kind of thought at that time I was like, gee, is that all it takes for him to get sick of this place? Because it was just a tiny incident. For me, would have been, but for you, it was a really big thing that happened. Okay, but I guess that's all you needed, just a little push in the right direction, and then you were off. Because what he was doing was destroying some of your negative karmas, and that's what he was doing in my case too. Or he was playing your system to do something in Earth consciousness. Anybody's guess is as good as mine.